Correspondence, as noted in your packet, special letter and the response from DOT. Public comment.
Sure, I'll start with those individuals online or they're calling in. If you'd like to speak and make a comment, you could do so. If you're online, you simply raise your hand and I can give you the floor. Likewise, if you're calling in, you can hit *9 and I will also recognize you that way. I will ask 2 times if there's anyone who'd like to speak. For the first time, is there anyone who'd like to speak? And for the second time, is there anyone who'd like to speak? With that, we can proceed.
No supervisor response. Approval of the minutes of August 23rd, 2022 County Board meeting. A motion, a second. Any changes, additions, deletions, comments, grammatical remarks, or other errors to be corrected? If not, by voice vote, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. County Administrator.
Sure. Just in the packets, is the update on our, our operational and capital projects. There wasn't any significant changes from last month to this month. But if there are any questions, I can definitely take those. If not, we could proceed.
Any questions of Ken? Okay. Any business and updates? None. Resolutions. Resolution 2022-85, Motorola Solutions Flex Software and Command Central Upgrade Agreements. David Engelbert.
I'm dealing with our Motorola Solutions software that was approved at the oversight committee level and then went through the process and review with Corporation Council, and it's here for county board approval. And if you'd like an explanation, I'm sure the sheriff or I can do much better than that on this long contract.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Alexis?
Thank you. I haven't had a chance to review the minutes, but I did read through this briefly. And is this in relation to the Next Gen 911 moving that way? Or I guess a little background would be helpful on this one.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Morning, everyone. Spillman or Motorola is our public safety software. So this contract in front of you is for our current systems that we have in place. It's been reviewed by Sean, so not quite sure what you exactly are asking as far as, is it going to include that? Depending on when we would go, we'd have to probably reevaluate, and there may be some additional costs, but that's really more on Jason's end than on our end. We're just the end user at the sheriff's office, but it is used by sheriff's office, EMS, fire, and our dispatch center.
Where? Yeah, I guess I was just maybe for the administrator, then can you help me understand how this works together with everybody? Like, this makes sense. This is, yeah, I apologize. I'm not prepared on this one, so I'm fine right now. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, we will go to the voter board. Let's pass on a vote of 18 yes, 0 no, and 3 absent. Thank you. Resolution 2022-86, authorization to proceed with Phase 2 Door County Archives and Historical Museum Facility Construction Project. Roy Engelbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve resolution number 2022-86, which authorizes to proceed with Phase 2 of the Door County Archives and Historical Museum Facility Construction Project. This is Phase 2 where we. Okay.
Question. Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering if someone from the committee or department could address the issue of sustainability. To what level are we going forward with a construction that has a green design, zero emissions kind of thing. What are our standards for this project? What are we aiming for? What are we achieving as far as, energy efficiency, that sort of thing?
I can answer that one. So as part of when we go into phase 2, that'll be actually part of the design process. So one of the things that we don't have, I guess, what we call green tier status, or not green tier, but I forgot the actual terminology now. Like LEED certified, yeah. But what we'll try to do is we'll try to take all those efforts to make it as efficient as possible. And also we'll do the same thing that's similar to what we did with the park maintenance building, is we'll evaluate solar and the ability to use that. And we'll have that, I guess, as part of the options to move forward to make it and see if it fits within the budget. So we'll go through that entire evaluation process for that. So it'll be part of the architect's design. It'll be part of the specifications for phase 2.
Okay, so does that include like aligning the roof so that the roof would support solar in a convenient way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I say evaluation, they'll do the complete evaluation of how they would place it and would it, support, but also the potential payback. Now, again, we're not using a lot of water there. Usually solar and water are the best payback in terms of that, but we'll be looking at that in terms of an option for the building itself.
Thank you.
Vinny?
Thank you. On page 74, where the layout is, could someone from the group just explain a little bit? It says program space in a white box and then museum and archive facility addition in the blue shape. So just as far as use and intent, I kind of understand the archive facility addition. Just wondering if there's a plan yet for program space, or is all of that blue area all archive, or just a quick, what's the space going to be used for? Thank you.
Sure, I can cover that one. So again, what we're looking at is the phase 2, and under the phase 2, we're recommending the conceptual site layout of that you see in that sheet. So in essence, you'll see, I guess, if you're colored version, you've seen the light blue with the existing museum. Then the dark blue would be the expansion area. Now, how the layout and the exact flow of the building, we're not quite sure. That'll be part of the evaluation process, whether they reconfigure or move some things around. That'll be part of the design process. The one thing that kind of stands out then is what's that dark green kind of portion. And again, when we had talked last time at County Board, there was some consideration of maybe doing a partnership with the Maritime Museum. The Maritime Museum is not ready to proceed at this point in time. So what they decided at the committee is still to go with this option, but we'd actually retain that site. And maybe initially it might be green space or it could be outdoor space. But the idea would be is that we could have that site and look for a compatible partner. So in other words, let's say if the Maritime Museum was ready to go with a project, we could work with them potentially on having that be like an entire museum complex. But again, our main focus would be on, again, using the light blue and the blue for the museum and archives with potential expansion / partnership or something to be determined in the future for that other portion.
And are the white areas that say program space, outdoor program space, or potential built program space, or what is program space? Thank you.
Oh, the program space or potential options, again, that'll get fleshed out more in terms of the design. But what they were thinking is that there could be some ideas in terms of program space for activities or educational things or gatherings in those areas. So like when the Yonkers buildings comes down that back portion, obviously we have to address the elevation, but they could design it where there could be some type of outdoor space that could be used for programming, educational programs and so forth.
Thank you.
Todd?
I think Kiana just mentioned, I think what was significant out of the committee meeting that is worth mentioning is that this is projecting Yonkers building going away.
Yep.
There's no more discussion that is part of this proposal, and we've kicked that around both as a board and on the committee level. And that's what I think is important to know, is that it's on this phase 2, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You?
As part of the design phase, Ken, is there any attempt to work with the city of Sturgeon Bay to look at traffic flow impacts when you look at design evaluation?
They will address that, because one of the things obviously they're looking at under this potential option is that back alley being reintroduced. So that's one of the things we will discuss with the city in terms of both the access point there and also the access onto Louisiana. So we will include the city in terms of that option and have that discussion with them on that, yes.
Dave, Echo?
Just some really stupid questions. These lots are not currently combined, correct? So they will go through that process.
Correct.
Okay. And then on that back driveway, the alley, what are the two nearly parallel lines on the north end?
That cut across the road.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what those are. I think those, my mind would just be a drafting error.
Okay. And presumably.
It could have been, I think we were trying to do show like a sidewalk portion where that'd go back to the programming space, but
Kind of like
this is conceptual.
decided spot. Okay.
Correct, yep.
And then presumably the back portion of the existing building that's kind of the retaining wall for the lot next door. That will be rebuilt in some way or prepared or able to hold that material back yet.
Yep, and that's one of the things that they looked at in terms of that. So when they say the programming space, you know, whether that be a graduated wall or step down rocks, whatever, but yeah, there's got to be a way to support that back there. That is correct.
And actually, one more question then, the northern portion of what available for sale or future development, in theory, there's a possibility of another entity, namely the Maritime Museum, doing some kind of project on the property. Presumably that might be a spot for it. The size of the building is not going to be small with the new construction, and then whatever might be added later on. We are going to be planning for a possible zero lot line construction and that stuff.
That is correct. And that's why we're showing this space. So that would, I mean, in essence too, I'm sure we'll take a little bit of hindsight and actually say, well, what if we would actually connect the buildings? Would you have a shared training space? That type of thing. So obviously you can design the building without having that, but you also can design it to say,
just
okay,
a-
we can cut a hole here.
It gets more difficult later on to realize, oops, we want to do something all the time and never really planned on it.
Correct.
Design changes have to occur.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We will go to the voter board. That's passed on a vote of 18 yes, 3 absent. Thank you. Resolution 2022-87, appointment to county board subunits, CCS, CCST Coordinating Committee, and Children's COP Advisory Committee. Dave Engelbert.
Resolution 2022-87 with the appointments to the subunits of the Health and Human Services Board. The county board chair and administrator are making a recommendation of appointing Laura Knappen to fill those vacancies.
Thank you. Any questions? By voice vote, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Resolution 2022-88, increase of hours, new positions, reclassification request, and part-time pay rates for 2022 and 2023. David Engelbert.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-88 for the increase of hours, new positions, and reclass requests and part-time pay rates. Those discussions took place at a joint meeting of finance and admin, and these are the recommendations coming forward for those new positions and so forth. I'm sure the administrator can answer any questions regarding those
Thank you.
new positions.
Any questions? Okay, we'll go to the order board. That's passing a vote of 18 yes, 3 absent. Thank you. Resolution 2022-89, amendment to Door County Administrative Manual, Section 3.0, hours of work. David Engelbert.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2022-89, the amendment to the Door County Administrative Manual for the section 3, the hours of work. We had probably about 3 months back approves a temporary change in the hours that the county offices would be open. After that period, it was back for review, and we're recommending continuing with those changed hours for the offices.
Sure, go ahead.
If I could, please, on this one too, just to point out, if you go to page 85 of the packet, that actually shows you the edits. I guess the one thing just to point out that this is a modified version that was actually presented at the admin committee. Supervisor Inigo did point out that we had the wrong version with the edits on it, so we did correct based off the most latest version of the policy, so we apologize for that. With that though, with the opportunity, since we had the correct version, I just wanted to point out the changes are in red. So it has the reporting hours, the work. But then also what we did do is we actually then corrected then the hours of work. Just so it's clear versus in the manual. So it matches what we're actually doing for our policy, both under emergency services on page 87. And likewise also for the Aging and Disability Resource Center on page 88. So again, I just wanted to explain, if you were following the tracking between the two committee meetings, that you'll see a different version. And again, apology made for the wrong version, but the one that's before you is the most current version, both with the strikeout and the red line corrections.
Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious about the Friday. I mean, I get why we're doing this from an employee standpoint, and I definitely support that. I just wondered too, I think about Fridays, people maybe coming into town and maybe need to, go to the land use services department or maybe whatever the need or the government service. So maybe you can help me remember, have we been closing at 11 o'clock on Fridays? How long has that been happening?
Since we started with the policy. So it's been in place end of May.
Okay.
Yep.
And so I guess, I guess that's the only thing I wonder about. And I guess I have a slight concern about, us not being there for the people that might need it on a Friday afternoon. And I understand, like I said, from a employee standpoint, I don't know if 3 months is long enough to, and of course it was summer too. So I don't know if things would be different for people in the fall or spring or winter, versus summer, but I guess that's my only concern. Thank you.
Actually, Bob, if I could, that's actually was a great question. And one of the things we did discuss, and actually the summer was actually a really good test for that. And we did report it at admin. So I'd say the first 2 weeks, probably 3 weeks, we did have some situations where people did come to the building and were not able to get service because they weren't aware of the change in the hours.
Right.
But then the rest of the summer, we did not have any situations where people had come in. In fact, again, all anecdotal, right? But we've had a lot of people say that they actually value the early hours start, meaning that they could come in that extra hour early just before, again, especially now since even school started, we've heard that even more. Just in terms of the ability for them either to come in before work, their work hours, or before they drop off their kids for school or that type of thing. So overall, it's been very positive. And I guess I would consider the number of issues related to people not being able to get service in the afternoon has been very minimal at all.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. I appreciate the.
And again, it's something we always monitor, but yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, if there was a problem, we found we could change it back, right? But yeah, I mean, and I guess, like you said, the earlier hours, and it's good to know that people are responding positively. So thank you for that feedback.
Okay. Anybody else? Dave, Anigo?
Yeah, while I'm the one that noticed it, I forgot to mention it during the administrative committee. That was my intent initially.
Oh.
But then to see the version that showed up in this packet today that is substantially more redlined items and more changes, which I understand is just the policy that we agreed to back in May. I would have preferred to see this go back to committee again, only because it is a substantial change. We have a policy and a procedure that we intend to follow as a board, relatively speaking. But unfortunately, this also sunsets at the end of this week. And I'm disappointed to see the sheer volume of difference due to some error made by somebody in providing the documents to the original administrative committee for review. It's disappointing to see this continue to happen.
So I guess I'm trying to understand, Dave. So the basic premise of keeping those hours has been the same since we started talking about it in May.
Right. But there could have been other discussions that may have occurred at administrative committee had the other line items been noticed as well.
But haven't we looked at that in the past?
Just a procedure we would normally follow that's not being followed.
Okay, I'm still confused. What do you feel is not being followed, or what are we looking at that?
We're seeing a bunch of changes to the document that look different than the document that was presented at administrative committee.
but has not the administrative committee seen these changes over a period of time? And this just encapsulates all of them?
Just still a pattern we normally would follow that we are not following. That's all.
Yes.
I guess the only thing, again, I apologize for the error that occurred. They happened and I'll own up to that part of it. And I worked with Kelly to get those corrections in. But again, I guess the only thing I would say is that if there was substantial changes that were not, I guess, lining up with our discussion at admin or the county board policy, then I'd have that same concern. But again, the changes match what was presented in terms of the intent of what we're trying to accomplish. And to be honest, on some of these, we could. I mean, it's kind of I was worried about bringing it forward this way, then you also saying that, well, you're not addressing all these other areas, it's not accurate. So that's why we made the changes, so they're all accurate. They match all the intent of what we tried to do as the county board and moving forward. So that's kind of where it's at. I understand where you're coming from though, too.
Anybody else? Todd?
Yeah, I just would like to express my concern as David for that when things show up at a county board level that didn't, and I know you're taking ownership for it, Ken, and I don't think we're necessarily looking for ownership, but
Nope.
we had talked about this a couple of months ago, a couple of meetings ago, when we had a little bit of confusion about our vote and what we talked about in the admin committee relative to who had to be present at a meeting and who didn't have to be present at the meeting, which I thought was a significant difference in the county board meeting as opposed to what we were doing in the admin committee. So I just, duly noted Dave's concern, and I echo that concern. Not enough to, vote a no on this proposal in front of us, but I don't understand how data is being collected. And sometimes I worry about data that, kind of precludes the outcome. So if we are taking data as to first couple of weeks as to people that came that couldn't receive service, how do we do that? And then how about the ones that didn't call? How about the ones that just got the locked door and walked away? So again, it's how the information sometimes is presented, and my mind to kind of get wrapped around it to say, how do we do that? We had talked about trying to advertise this and gain public feedback a bit more prior to this vote, which unfortunately I don't believe we did. So I'm just commenting on those pieces.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll go to the voter board. That's passed by a vote of 18 yes, 3 absent. Thank you. Resolution 2022-90, Door County Compensation Structure and Performance Incentives. David Engelbert?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-90. Pertains to the Door County compensation structure and performance incentives. The compensation study is the recommendation of Cottingham and Butler, the firm that the county hires to do a comparison to other counties. And then the performance incentives allows for the employees to get an extra increase in their pay. That was all reviewed by the joint committees of finance and administrative, and the recommendation is here.
Thank you. Questions? Okay, we'll go to the voter board. It's passed on a vote at 18 yes, 3 absent. Thank you. Ordinances, report, amendment to the zoning map of Sevastopol, Kohler. Dave Engelbert, I'm sorry, Engel.
Too many Daves in this
Too many
county board.
Daves, too many E's.
That too. I recommended approval, accepting this report or an amendment to the zoning map of the Sevastopol, Paler.
Questions on the report? Dave?
I can give a brief description. Originally, the applicant had come in looking to rezone the entire lot that's outlined in green on the last page of the document. The department head is unfortunately unavailable to give a brief description of this. During the discussion, part of the concern was taking that entire lot and making it all the same contiguous zoning value and what could happen in the rest of the lot around the neighboring lots. So we changed that's the change that we did, and that's what you're seeing in the report is the squaring off of that predominantly front lot line area that would be considered commercial at some point in time anyways.
Thank you. Hugh?
And just for completeness, the town of Sebastopol unanimously recommended approval of the rezoning and doing that northeast portion consistent with what the RPC eventually voted on.
Okay, thank you. Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just for clarity, the daycare will go on the commercial center piece or on the countryside piece?
Commercial center section, and substantially it'd be the structures orientated to the activities. So the rest of the land, their intent, they still need to come back for conditional use permit, but their intent would be to use the rest of the space as more of a nature area, paths and stuff like that, educational areas. That's what was presented at the time.
Todd?
Maybe I'm wrong on where this is exactly located, but how do we think this is going to impact that intersection that we spoke about so deeply in our last meeting? And has that been, I mean, obviously we need daycare. I understand it. I get it. I'm not suggesting this isn't the right place for it, but that was a fairly substantial discussion at one of our latest meetings regarding that intersection. And maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like this would be funneled primarily through there.
Dave?
That too was a lengthy discussion on there because of that decision and plus our historical understanding of the intersection in the first place. It wasn't something with the intended operations of the counties removing that northern exit. And the fact that it's substantially Sebastopol and Sturgeon Bay orientated intended customers. It could be, it's going to be an increased level of traffic, but one would hope they'll take some of the other side roads to exit for the majority of those customers.
You?
Yes, that was one of the challenges as this went through the town of Sebastopol and led to the work of myself, Supervisor Vogel, Supervisor Alexis Hein-Peter, and leadership of Roy Engelbert to go through the Highway Commission to get the left turn lane eliminated. In addition, there have been discussions as well to try to lower that speed limit in that area, especially during the hours of operation when school buses drop off kids during the extended stay. And we're continuing to work with the Highway Commissioner on that. Also, there was a request to see if that, since there wasn't a portion of land that also abutted Egg Harbor Road, one of the questions was, could you put the driveway in Egg Harbor Road? But from feedback from the Highway Commissioner, by regulation, if you have two roads that abut entrances, they have to go on the least traveled road, and Gordon Road had the least traffic compared to Egg Harbor Road by a factor of almost 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just as a reminder, this is on the report. This is one of the hardest things about zoning because you're going to expect the kind of questions during the report level when the real vote of the actual action is on the next item. But a reminder that while they did purchase all of the lots, the lot they referenced was only the one accessible through Gordon. It was not accessible at all through the Egg Harbor lot. So their intent was going to be coming from there.
You?
I'm done.
You good? Anybody else? Dave Engelbert?
Yes, I was questioned by a constituent if there was any wetland affected in this change, and I couldn't answer him. I didn't know if there was really any wetlands in any of this area or not. Perhaps he was thinking of a different topic coming before the RPC.
There is some areas of question in other parts of the lot, but not here.
Any other questions? Okay, since this is the report, this is by voice vote only. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Ordinance 2022-09, amendment to the zoning map of Sebastopol, Fuller and Polar. Dave,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt ordinance 2022-09, amendment to the zoning map of Sebastopol, Fuller, Paler.
any questions? Since it's an ordinance, we need to go to the voter board. It's passed on a vote of 18 yes, 3 absent. Thank you. Special reports, none. New business, any oral committee reports? Any review of committee minutes? Any review of vouchers, claims, and bills? Announcements, our next county board meeting is Tuesday, October 25th at 9 a.m. I just want to make one comment. The vast majority of the board was at the WCA Fall Conference. I think it was a good conference this year. There was a lot of really good topics. There was a lot of good outside discussions that were held. And I was happy to see, contrary to what some of rumors we had when we went to a salary, that nobody would show up at this meeting. And in actuality, we had a vast majority of the board. I think we had 17 people signed up for it, which was great. So thank you. With that, a motion to adjourn would be in order. I'm sorry, Alexis.
I need to plan out a little bit. Can you also have a announcement about the November meeting date? Because I know that's going to change for the budget. I'm sorry, but it would really help me just to have
Sure,
it.
absolutely.
Thank you.
The 15th. Yes, I had said the 8th before. It is the 15th.
Okay, thank you.
It is.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Well, yes.
A motion to adjourn would be in order. Motion second. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Plenty of time to eat more of that cheesecake back there.